Hello, I'm Colleen Gallagher, CEO at Onward and Upward, and you're listening to the Association Insights podcast, where each week we interview association leaders from across the country to hear how they're trying new things, taking big risks, and delivering value for their members. We'll explore the realities of what it means to work in and with associations and bring you the insights and inspiration you need to advance your career and make big changes at your association. Let's get started.
Welcome to the Association Insights podcast. I'm today's host, Christine Stay, and I'm joined by my co-host, Colleen Gallagher. I'm really excited about today's guest. He's not only a repeat guest on our show, but a former colleague and a friend. And I've known him quite some time now, probably longer than I'd like to say. And Matt Marcial is the newly announced CEO of PRSA, the Public Relations Society of America. As a PR agency, we always closely follow PRSA, so we're really excited to hear firsthand what they're up to. At PRSA, Matt is responsible for all program, financial, and operational aspects of the organization. Reporting to and collaborating closely with the board of directors, he will guide the development and implementation of PRSA's strategic plan, as well as the organization's programs and advocacy positions to support its members. Marcial brings a wealth of expertise in driving growth, innovation, and strategic development within associations and nonprofits. Most recently, he provided strategic consulting and helped deliver revenue growth for nonprofit clients. He previously served as CEO of the National Association of College Auxiliary Services and served in executive roles with the Institute of Internal Auditors, Meeting Professionals International, NAFA Fleet Management Association, where I had the pleasure of working with him, and the American Association of Clinical Endocrinologists as well. I could go on, but you get the point. He is incredibly qualified, and we're thrilled to have him on the podcast. Matt, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you, Christine. It's great to be with you guys again.
It's been almost exactly 2 years since we last spoke. I touched a lot about what you've been working on, but what has your association journey looked like since your time at NACIS, and what drew you to PRSA at the moment in your career?
Yeah, absolutely. So I had the opportunity to start consulting after I stepped down from NACIS, and that gave me a great opportunity to work with a few different associations and nonprofits that touch some different segments. So everything from education, technology, government, and help them with things like sponsorship strategy, sales development, education. So it touched a few areas that I've been involved in, and that was really rewarding. And then I learned about the opportunity at PRSA and just got really excited as I went through the process. And we'll talk more about that.
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, it's all about timing. So that's perfect. You've obviously held leadership roles across a wide range of associations. What common threads or lessons have shaped your approach to leading organizations, and how will those inform your work at PRSA?
Yeah, as I've grown in my different roles, when I started out in associations, my goal was kind of to broaden my experience as much as I could across different operational areas. But what I've learned is as you grow in your leadership, what becomes more and more important is those relationships with your different stakeholders. And so I've really tried to be really cognizant of how am I doing that in terms of from every aspect, from our board members, volunteers, staff, all of those different areas, partners. That's so important to start and be really intentional about how you're building relationships. And so that's something that I've taken with me, and I found just such a value as you become more of a leader and broadening that experience.
Yeah, I love that. We actually did a whole leadership series in March on the podcast, and I feel like that came through, really strong. So I appreciate that sentiment there. I mean, stepping into this role, CEO of PRSA, is a big moment, and maybe I'm a little biased, but being this organization that plays such a central role in the comms field, I'd love to know about your top priorities as you get started. I know we're talking to you at right at 30 days in here, so it's still the early days.
Yeah, I like to say I've been in listening, learning mode as much as possible now, trying to talk to as many folks as I can. So I think I've gotten through most of the board, staff, and different volunteers. My approach has been, I want an open door to anybody who wants to talk to me. So that's been great. I think they've appreciated that. Really, on top of that, diving into our new strategic plan, that's been a big focus. It was one of the things that really drew me to the role because there's a lot of ambitious projects and initiatives that we've got in that plan that are really going to be transformational for PRSA. And so really seeing how we can get all of our stakeholders kind of laser focused around that plan, because like I said, there is a lot, but it's very exciting. And I think that all of our folks are really excited about what that's going to mean for the organization. So that's a top priority. That's going to inform a lot of what we do going forward.
Yeah, that is exciting because obviously the PR and comms profession has evolved so much, especially in recent years. I'd love to know where you see the biggest opportunities for PRSA to really continue leading the way and supporting members as things keep changing.
Yeah, I think that some of the things that we have to be focused on is how, as an organization, we're more nimble and agile to changes and impacts. I think all associations are starting to see geopolitical and economic impacts to our businesses. And so how are we addressing those things to really help our members? Because some of our segments of our membership, for example, public affairs and government, obviously is being impacted across all spaces, right? So one of the things I was really proud of to see the team launch very quickly was a portal for our members in that space that helps them with those facing job loss and having those resources that can quickly get them up to speed. And so things like that, where we're really looking at opportunities to serve those members with support and resources. When you look at education is another area. How are we delivering education not only that they want, but that's timely? So oftentimes we're looking at our annual conferences and we're planning those programs several months out. How do we leave space to be intentional to say, okay, we know that, a few weeks out, this may be a hot topic that we weren't planning for. How do we leave time that we can have those discussions and areas that folks can learn from that on site still at the conference?
Yeah. So many good things there you just said. It's interesting when you mentioned what you all did for some of those federal workers and things like that and what was offered. I'm also on the board of Washington Women in PR, and that inspired us. We saw that and we said, okay, what can we do for our members, similarly that have been impacted by what's going on? So I appreciate what you all did there and for giving us some inspiration too. I think there's so many great resources PRSA has, and I'm excited to see what's coming in the future. I will say, I know this is before your time, but as part of our onboarding process at ONU, we actually require all our employees to read the PRSA Guide to Ethics in AI.
Yeah.
Because, AI is going to be it already is. It's been a major game changer for us. And that was so important to us that we take that ethical approach. And we were kind of just piecing it together before that came out. So greatly appreciated. And the resources you all produce are truly actionable and helpful. So
absolutely. Yeah.
I know you said in the these first 30 days you've just been listening, and there's been a lot of volunteers you've been meeting, and obviously the size of PRSA. It's both a national and international organization with more than 400 chapters. How are you approaching leading such a large, diverse, and geographically distributed membership?
Yeah, we've got a lot of layers, as you say, and I'm learning that as I've dived in. I believe that we've got to meet our members where they are. A lot of our folks, they engage with PRSA at the chapter level. That's where they first learn about us. That's where they really have their community and their network. So that's really critical. And I'm looking at how are we supporting at that chapter level? How are we really giving those folks the resources they need to be successful? Because that chapter health is critical. We've also got, we call sections. And so everything from travel and tourism to this week, I was actually at our Counselors Academy, which is our PR agency owners. A week before that, I was at our Higher Ed Summit. So we've got all these different special interest groups that we serve as well that are really tight-knit communities. And so I believe we've got to meet them where they are. And so whether that's board members getting out to the districts and talking to the folks in their chapters, or leadership team getting out as much as possible, we've got to be there so we can hear what those folks need and really understand how we can better serve them. I have the privilege of being able to get out a lot too and meeting a lot of these folks. So I think as a leader, it's really important to be able to take back what you've heard. And so I'm a big proponent for myself and my leadership team. Let's share what we're hearing so that we can actually take action. Because I think if we're just, hearing the feedback and not doing anything with it, it's not going to go anywhere. But if we're we're going back and seeing how we can action upon some of that stuff we're hearing and start to take those trends and do something with it. It can be very powerful.
I love that. Like you said, making action from the feedback. Because, like you said, if you just keep on hearing this feedback and not doing anything, you're not really, assisting your members in the best way possible.
Absolutely. Yeah. And sometimes you get that, there's always going to be the squeaky wheel. And so you have to take certain things with a grain of salt. But there's going to be things that you hear that are more substantial and that you need to really look at how you're going to address.
And obviously, you offer a lot to your members, from professional development to ethics to advocacy. And you mentioned this ambitious strategic plan, which sounds amazing. Are there any particular areas of that plan that you're excited to expand or evolve?
Yeah, I'm really excited about one of the new things that we're about to embark on is a research study, because we currently have not done any new research in quite a while. And our objective with this is really to help us better understand not only our current member needs in the industry, but what do those future members' needs entail? What the folks who aren't PRSA members today, because we're just scratching the surface, as you know, of the communications landscape. And we really want to be an inclusive community for all of those folks. We see communications and PR going beyond just your traditional comms leader. It also is everyone from the person who is a videographer and a creative, because they're communicating too, just in a different way. So we see our community as something that we really want to broaden and grow. And that's something this research, we hope, will help us to understand that. We've got a very strong reputation and brand as PRSA, but some folks may not see the PR as entailing what they do in their careers today. So what does that look like? Is it strategic communications, and how does that help us fit in people who don't see this as their home right now, but potentially could get a lot of value from it?
Oh, I love that. I can't wait to see those results. That'll be so interesting and I'm sure really impactful. Shifting gears a little. So one thing we hear from a lot of CEOs is you've got to align your staff, your board, and your member communities behind this common vision. And the successful associations we see, that they do that. They get that buy-in and that excitement, and everything always comes back to the mission. So I guess I'm curious kind of where your leadership philosophy stands when it comes to building that alignment.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's so important that you get that alignment and lockstep with your stakeholders around what that vision is and how you're going to get there. And so as a leader, as I went through the interview process for this role, the board was really keen on a leader who's got a vision for the organization. And so I know how important it is to articulate that vision and where we're headed. And it can get exhausting because you feel like you're saying the same thing over and over. But I think what you find is, just when you think you've said it enough and articulated it enough, you need to do it again, because you've got so many different folks and there's so much going on that you've got to cut through the clutter and make sure that that's key. And even with your staff, ensuring that everybody's on the same page with that. And so as we're talking about the strategic plan, I think it's so important to just stay focused and go back to it. And one of the things I appreciate about the board is that they are laser focused around that. It's really important. So every board meeting, we are looking at it. We've got a strategic planning committee that takes the approach of how are we refreshing? We're not going to change priorities with each new board chair. We're really looking for that continuity. So even though we've got a 3-year plan, it's going to continue to evolve. And we're not just going to rip up this 3-year plan when it's over. We're going to continue the process of where we've been so that we've got that continuity and movement towards that vision.
Yeah, that continuity is so important. And I have to laugh when you say, like, repeat that message, because I feel like when we're in media training, that's what we're saying. It's like you tell them again, you tell them again after that, because it's the only way to get things to stick, especially in today's, fragmented attention span world.
Absolutely.
So as I mentioned, PRSA is our professional home as communications practitioners here. So we're particularly curious about your thoughts on the role of associations in really elevating the profession and advancing industry standards.
Yeah, it's definitely really upon us to doing that. I think that one of our key values is elevating the industry and the profession. You mentioned the AI code of ethics. One of the things PRSA is really proud of is our professional code of ethics for PR practitioners. And that's a differentiator for us. So that's something that when you hear about somebody who's in PR, the general public who may not understand what communicators do see PR from a different lens, right? They may think that, oh, they're just spinning the news, or and that's not what our members do. They really hold a lot of value in their integrity and ethics. And so my goal as part of what we're doing with elevating the profession is to really raise that awareness for the public and that understanding of what's behind the code of ethics. So looking at strategies to help us get that message out there. We've got our APR, which is the Accreditation and Public Relations credential as well. And those folks go through a lot of the same process of, standards around the industry. And so elevating that as well so that it's not the best kept secret, because right now, the folks I've talked to who are APRs feel like it is. Like there's understanding and acknowledgement for what it is within the industry and the profession, but outside it's not as well known as it should be. And so how do we get, the APR into all the job descriptions for that being something that's valued and elevating that from that standpoint?
I love hearing all of that. That's awesome. The last time we chatted, which was a few years ago, you were working on launching some initiatives at NACIS that really prioritized DEI and leadership development. And I loved hearing about those and thought they were really creative and going to really make a difference. So I'm curious if you see similar opportunities to expand PRSA's leadership pipeline and build a more inclusive future for the profession.
Absolutely. So one of right before I started, actually, PRSA put out a DEI statement around our commitment. It's so important to this organization. And that was really great to see. It received, and the board had conversations before this went out. We have a DEI committee as well that's actively involved in that. But it was really great to see there is a conversation around, look, in today's environment, we need to be aware we're going to receive backlash. It's not going to be well received from everyone, but this is core to who PRSA is, and it's really important to us and our values. So we went out with that statement, and the response has been tremendous from the community. At the event I was at earlier this week, we had a member who actually said to me and our board chair that seeing that was actually her proudest moment as a PRSA member. So that was just so great to hear. And that's, she's not the only one. There's been several folks who have felt that way. And so to know that that kind of impact is there has been great. I will say on the flip side, there's a lot of challenges facing us, and we're having a lot of difficult decisions around how do we make the impact around things like DEI programming, because we know those members who are in the government space, some of the nonprofit space, are going to have challenges attending events that may have focus around that. So we're having those difficult discussions around, do we change? We just made this bold statement around our commitment. And so those are things I think all associations are grappling with and having to face, but we are holding true to who we are and that level of importance to us.
I love that feedback that you got from one of your members. I feel like that will showcase like you're on the right path. Like that's exactly what you need to be doing. So that's fantastic to get that in real time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Finally, what does success look for you in this new role? Like, what do you hope that PRSA members will see and feel under your particular leadership in the years ahead?
Mm-hmm. For me, it's really about how are we broadening that reach? How are we becoming more relevant to our community? That's so important. We want to be, like I said, that inclusive, relevant community going forward. It may mean how do we partner more with other organizations that are out there? I think what I've seen at other associations is we have more impact when we can reach more people. So how can we work together to do that so that it's easier for our members to find that value? Also, just really looking at how we are that professional home, that place that all of our members see the value. They're bringing their colleagues along. We've had a lot of success in the space of growing group memberships. So targeting those organizational levels so that their team can engage and find value locally with their chapters and that side of it. So really, how are we growing? How are we reaching more people and broadening that experience, and knowing that our members know that we care about them and that experience? That'll really, be something that I want to make and leave as an impact.
And I love your enthusiasm. And obviously, PRSA is very lucky to have you on board
Oh,
because I
thank
think
you.
you really are going to take it to that next level. So they're very, very lucky. Well, thank you so much for sharing so many wonderful insights today. And I know our listeners will take away so much from this. We obviously certainly did, and we love chatting about this. Before we let you go, we ask all our guests some fun questions, rapid fire style, so our listeners can get to know you a little bit better. And these are actually some new questions from the last time we had you on, so hopefully they'll learn even more about you. So, first up, have you gotten to get anywhere fun lately? I mean, you've been traveling a lot for this, so
Yeah.
I don't know how fun it has been, but
Not for vacation per se, but we're in the process of moving to Dallas, and so my wife and I were just out there doing some house hunting, and that was fun. Be able to look at those options and go back to some of our favorite restaurants. So that was a good time a couple weeks ago, and we're making the move here later this month.
Oh, that's exciting. And I haven't been to Dallas, but I've heard really good things about it.
Yeah, we love it up there.
Like you said, even the food scene, which I always love. What podcasts are you listening to, obviously, other than Association Insights? And what would you recommend to our listeners?
Yeah, admittedly, I haven't had a lot of time to listen to as many podcasts as I'd like, but I'm still a fan of like the Freakonomics podcast. I think it's just really interesting how they bring different unique angles to economics, and it's always fun to listen when you have time.
Not that you haven't been busy or anything, so it's tough. What's the one place in the United States that you've never been to but would love to go to?
Yeah, probably Alaska. I think it would be so beautiful, either from going on a cruise out there to seeing everything. But I think that would be a really, really neat experience.
Same. I heard it's like so serene and beautiful, and I would love to do that combination, like land cruise tour, so you get to see everything. And
exactly.
Yeah, that's a good bucket list item to have. Lastly, finish this sentence. When you see me looking at my phone, it probably means that I'm
checking emails.
You're like, that's an easy one. That's what I'm doing. Well, thank you so much, Matt. We really appreciate having you on.
Well, thank you. It's been such a pleasure.
That's a wrap for today's episode. The Association Insights podcast, previously known as the Association 100 podcast, is a production of Onward and Upward Marketing and Communications, where our mission is to make associations and nonprofits the go-to source in their industries through earned media and thought leadership. This podcast is an extension of our newsletter, a bi-monthly collection of best practices, top trends, helpful ideas, and smart strategies delivered straight to your inbox. Have you undertaken a big change at your association? Or do you have some words and wisdom from the trenches of association life? We want to hear from you, and so do our listeners. Drop us a note at info@onwardupward.com. That's info@onwrdupwrd.com. Be sure to subscribe, give us a 5-star review, and share with your friends and colleagues. We're available anywhere podcasts are found. Come back next week for more association insights and inspiration. Thanks for tuning in.